Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks to both of you for your willingness to serve and for being here today. Mr. Blanche, I'd like to start with you. You had a long and distinguished career as a federal prosecutor. While you were at the Department of Justice, you received a Department of Justice Award for Superior Performance as an AUSA for your work in a case called United States versus Lee. That case, as I understand it, involved prosecuting a gang for narcotics trafficking, armed robberies, and even murders. Over the last 4 years, we've seen a crime wave sweeping across the country, including a violent crime wave. How, if you're confirmed as Deputy Attorney General, will you address some of these issues?
Thank you, Senator. I mean, quite simply, to empower United States attorneys around this country to work with not only the federal agencies like the FBI, DEA, ATF, but also with our state and local partners to get into the inner cities, but also into our rural communities and combat violent crime. It can work. We have a lot of money. We have a lot of really great agents and great prosecutors who want to do this work. And so going into a city and cleaning it up, and some of those cases will go to the state. Some of the cases should go federal, but working with our state and local partners and empowering, if confirmed, empowering U.S. attorneys to do their job, I think is the shortest and easiest way to make that happen.
You've spent much of your career doing precisely that from a different level, different position, but in that respect, this could feel like stepping into a comfortable set of shoes. Ms. Slater, let's talk about antitrust enforcement for a minute. There is often kind of a comparison in which people will tend to view antitrust law through the lens of either regulation or enforcement. Now, strong enforcement of antitrust laws can often obviate the need for ex post regulation by proactively preventing, discouraging, deterring companies from taking actions that would otherwise run them afoul of the law. Can you just explain your perspective on that distinction between enforcement and regulation as it relates to U.S. antitrust law?
Thank you so much, Senator. This is a really important point. So to summarize from my standpoint, regulation is often necessitated by a high concentration in certain markets. That's when regulators step in. Antitrust enforcement, it's the tool that we use to stop those markets from tipping into the need for regulation. And if I could compare them to tools, I might say antitrust enforcement is a scalpel, and regulation is often a sledgehammer. It applies to entire industries all at once, regardless of a specific company's conduct, whereas antitrust is a scalpel, it's targeted enforcement, and it requires evidence of anti-competitive conduct and harm to consumers.
And so by embracing the enforcement angle, we can achieve better outcomes that way, better compliance, and overall end up with lower enforcement costs by the government when we pursue that angle. Is that right?
100%, Senator.
Thank you. Mr. Blanche, your experience in private practice, representing a variety of clients across fields, individuals, business entities, and other types of entities. You've had the experience over and over again of having a client. Even while representing the U.S. government, you've interacted with somebody who serves for your purposes as the mouthpiece of the government, and therefore the mouthpiece of the client. As a lawyer, you're always acting as a client. One of the important features there involves learning how to tell the client no when the answer isn't there, and where the answer is no, helping to guide the client to the best resource, the best approach under the law, consistent with principles of the sound practice of law. Tell us how this will guide and inform your work if confirmed as Deputy Attorney General.
I agree with everything you said. I mean, I think that if you're in a room with whether it's a client or another lawyer, and you just always agree or yes that person, you're not doing your job. And I think that in private practice, that's the same is true of a client. You're not going to agree with your client on anything, on everything, and they're not going to agree with you on everything. And the goal is to is to counsel them to achieve the best results. And that's what I've learned. Certainly that includes being a prosecutor as well, but that's what I've learned over the past 10 years as a defense attorney. And certainly that will help me if I'm confirmed as Deputy Attorney General.
Now, that makes sense. Those same principles do apply in very meaningful ways. Mrs. Slater, during President Trump's first term in office, the Department of Justice and the Federal Trade Commission launched investigations into a number of big tech companies, including Google, Apple, Meta, and Amazon, for anti-competitive conduct. The Biden administration continued those cases, which had bipartisan support for them, certainly within the Senate and within the House. And those cases are still ongoing today. How will you continue to hold big tech accountable when it comes to antitrust law?
Thanks for the question, Senator. You're correct. There is a through line on many big tech cases between the first Trump term and today. And so being handed over to me at the Department of Justice specifically are two cases involving one of the big tech platforms, Google. I don't have the file in front of me, and it is pending litigation. However, the intention is to, in good faith, go and visit with the staff, get up to speed on the file, and take it from there. Resources are, of course, very important consideration in antitrust litigation. In taking cases further, it's very complex civil litigation, as you know, and costly. So that will be a consideration, but absolute intention is to, once I get there, read into all of the open litigations that are in the docket.
Thank you. And then finally, Mr. Blanche, you've borne testimony today based on some of your own personal experiences and others that you've observed from afar. What has happened with the politicization within the Department of Justice, the deployment of lawfare to go after, to try to imprison the then incumbent president's last standing political challenger, his only obstacle to another 4 years in the White House. What will you do if confirmed as Deputy Attorney General to end that dangerous and unprecedented trend?
It's simple. Politics will play no role, full stop, period. Outside influence in the Department of Justice cannot happen. And I think what we saw over the past several years was something completely inconsistent with that concept and that idea. And the whole country saw it, but I saw it firsthand. And the damage that it did, and I think that it continues to do right up until November 5th, was hard. And it's going to take a long time to grab that credibility back. But the way to grab it back is to just have politics play no role in it, period.
Thank you.